The $1 Investment, audio story by Silke Chambers. Doing good doesn't always result in a reward. Charity Cristy found, however, that sometimes a good deed may escalate into a continuum of events that rewards you in the end. Please subscribe and hit the like button to support me in offering more audio stories for your listening enjoyment. And now for the story. It caught her eye as she approached her car, trembling in the autumn breeze beneath her car's front tire. It was a dollar bill. Charity Cristy glanced around the parking lot of the hospital and at others leaving after working the night shift. No one seemed to be looking for an errant dollar bill, so she freed it from the crush of the tire and dropped it into her scrub-top pocket. She beeped her car open with her keys and got in, catching sight of the folded paper on the passenger seat. "Oh, my grocery list," Charity said, unfolding it and perusing the words on it. "Milk, toilet paper, lettuce, cold cuts. Something for dinner." She murmured. Something for dinner. What would Jeff want? After nearly 20 years of dinners every night, the font of creativity had finally run dry. Actually, it had run dry long ago, and Charity used a running menu of 5 or 6 meals, interspersed with the occasional fast food or carryout. Pulling into the Value Foods grocery store, Charity parked her car and passed into the entrance. She was about to grab a cart when she noticed a father wearing a baby in a front-facing carrier come into the store after her. He was clutching the hand of a small girl as she skipped alongside him, tugging at his hand. "Slow down, Azalea. I don't want to wake Leo," the father said. He placed a protective hand on the fuzzy head of the baby, its chin slumped against his chest. Charity watched the father wheel a cart into the store as he instructed Azalea to hold on to it. The little girl darted away. Charity propelled a cart toward a Salvation Army volunteer who was in the entryway with her bell and red kettle. A little early for that, she thought. She pulled out the dollar she had found from her scrub-top pocket and slid it into the red kettle. "Thank you, dear," the elderly woman said, handing Charity a candy cane. "And Merry Christmas." Charity smiled and held up the candy cane. "Merry Christmas to you, too," she said. Stepping away, she wheeled her cart along the aisles. She unfolded the grocery list, not trusting her memory after working the night shift at the hospital. Her 4th night in a row. While getting the items on her list, she decided on chili for dinner and chose ground beef, 2 cans of kidney beans, a packet of chili seasoning mix, and the other ingredients. As she shopped, she kept hearing the admonishing voice of Azalea's dad, the giggles of the little girl, and finally some fussing and crying from baby Leo. Must be his day for the kids, Charity thought. She knew it was an outmoded point of view. Perhaps the mom was at work, or maybe he was the primary caregiver. Approaching the checkout counter, Charity leaned on the grocery cart while the person in front of her finished loading the conveyor belt and paying at the pin pad. The father with the 2 children got in line behind her, and Azalea began immediately to pull chocolate bars from the candy displays. "Please," Azalea said, thrusting her hands full of candy toward her father. "Put those back," the father said. As he reached for his daughter, he nudged his cart forward, right into Charity's backside. "I'm sorry," he said to Charity. He was trying to wrest the candy bars from Azalea's grasp while keeping Leo in an upright position against his chest. "It's okay," Charity said. She began loading the conveyor belt with her groceries, continuing to eye the unfolding drama behind her. As the father bent down to reach the little girl, he knocked Leo's head against the grocery cart. He stood up and rubbed the fuzzy head, making soothing sounds while Leo scrunched up his eyes, pressed his mouth into a pout, and finally opened it in a loud wail. "Look what you made me do," he scolded, snatching the candy bars from Azalea with force and hurling them into a random box in the aisle. Now Azalea was bawling, and the father looked miserable. Charity turned. "You're brave to take 2 little ones to the store by yourself." Baby Leo looked up from the carrier to the new person addressing his father. Interested, he forgot his sore head and watched Charity through red-rimmed eyes. Azalea was hiccuping and holding onto her father's pant leg. Not doing too well," the father said. My wife is away, visiting her father in Florida. He had a stroke. He petted Azalea's brown hair absently. The checkout clerk had finished bagging Charity's groceries and was asking for payment. Charity bent down toward the little girl. Here, she said. She held out the candy cane given to her by the Salvation Army volunteer. You can have this if you promise to do what your dad says. Go ahead, prodded the father. Azalea gave a sad little nod and reached for the candy cane. Thank you, the father said as he began unloading his cart. No problem. I hope your father-in-law recovers well, Charity said. She turned to make her payment and placed the bags into the grocery cart. Propelling the cart to the exit door, Charity was approached by the store manager. I watched you give that little girl your candy cane. Here at Value Foods, we promote community and helping each other, the manager said. He handed Charity a plastic card in a small cardboard sleeve. This is a token of our thanks for upholding those values. Thank you, Charity said as she pulled the gift card from the sleeve. It was $10 to spend in the grocery store. As the manager stepped away, Charity remembered she did want to purchase something else. A gift for her friend Laura on Dogwood Lane. It was her birthday, and Charity had put off buying anything, as Laura seemed to have everything she needed. That's when the display of cut flowers caught her attention. Withdrawing a bunch of pink and red carnations, Charity got back in the checkout line. She paid for the flowers with the gift card, got back 74 cents change, and continued to the parking lot. She loaded her purchases and drove home. After getting up that afternoon, Charity drove to Laura's house with the flowers and a birthday card. Laura greeted her at the door with a quick hug and invited her inside. Happy birthday, Charity said, handing Laura the bunch of flowers. Laura held them out before her. These are lovely and so fresh. She placed them into a drinking glass of water and set it on the coffee table. Also on the coffee table was a 2-layer birthday cake with one piece cut out of it. Charity sat in her usual spot, a wingback chair flanking the coffee table. Laura sat in the other one. That's a nice cake, Charity said. Oh, please have a slice. My brother from Strongsville sent it to me, and I can't eat that much. Laura strode into the kitchen and returned with a knife and 2 forks and small plates. She cut 2 slices of cake and served one to Charity. Charity took a bite. This is really good. Is it almond? Laura nodded while chewing on a bite of cake. After their visit, Laura packaged up half the cake and sent it home with Charity. So much! What about you? Laura waved her hand airily. I still have 2 pieces. Your husband will like it. That night, Charity served a slice of Laura's birthday cake to Jeff after their dinner of chili and tossed salad. How old is she now? Jeff asked. Laura? She's 88 this year. Should be in a nursing home by now. She may not last long. Used to Jeff's conversational missteps, Charity said, but she can do everything herself. Plus, she still walks in the neighborhood every day. She's really in good shape. Jeff widened his eyes and nodded. Cake's good, he said, taking a last bite. Standing up, he cleared the table and began loading the dishwasher. You can leave the dishwasher for tomorrow, Charity said. It's really not full enough to run. She placed the remainder of the cake into a plastic container with a lid and set it by her lunchbox, intending to take it to work that night to share with her coworkers. She then retreated up the stairs to take a nap before driving to the hospital for a last shift before a week of much-needed staycation. Charity strode through the hospital employee entrance and took the elevator to the 4th floor. Reaching the 4 South Medical Surgical Unit, she made it to the employee lounge just in time for shift report and placed the half-birthday cake Laura gave her onto the table. Ooh, cake, Miranda said, tossing her head of short copper hair. What's the occasion? My neighbor's birthday, Charity said. She lives alone and couldn't eat it all. Thanks for sharing. Miranda retrieved plastic implements and paper plates from a cupboard and cut a slice. The other nurses and the healthcare tech joined them in the lounge and partook of cake and coffee as they listened to the recorded report from the evening shift. After report, Charity's first stop was her patient in room 5, an elderly man with new-onset diabetes. Thomas Blair had led a healthy life as a lineman for the electric company, but after retirement found he had little to do but eat and watch TV all day, and gained a considerable amount of weight. His daughter, Priscilla, brought him to the ER 3 days ago with decreased alertness, rapid breathing, and a blood glucose level in the 600s. Entering Mr. Blair's dimly lit room, Charity was startled by the stirring of Priscilla, seated on a recliner, her dark skin and hair making it hard to pick her out in the darkened corner. "Sorry to scare you," Priscilla said. "Don't worry, I just didn't expect to see you there." Charity approached Mr. Blair's bedside to take vital signs and perform a glucometer check. Noting the IV pole pushed aside and turned off, she said, "I see his insulin drip has been stopped. That's a good sign." "They stopped it this afternoon." Priscilla leaned forward in the dim light and consulted a small memo book in her hand. She lifted her head and swept curly black hair from her eyes. "At that time, his glucose was 172. "Much better," Charity said. She gently woke Mr. Blair, did the finger stick, and obtained the reading. Holding up the glucometer so Priscilla could see, Charity said, 158, almost normal. Turning to her patient, she said, "Good job, Mr. Blair." "Humph," Mr. Blair grunted. "Tired of eating salads for every meal. Give me a donut or something." Charity put on her best sympathetic face. She understood the desire for sweets, having the same craving herself. Her struggle with extra weight in her belly and thighs reminded her daily that she should cut back. "Maybe when your sugar is under control, you will be allowed the occasional treat," she said. Finishing her exam of Mr. Blair, she documented her findings in the computer at his bedside and logged off. Priscilla watched Charity's ministrations from the recliner, wide awake now at the late time of 12:30 a.m. She had been at her father's side since he came up to 4 South from the ER 3 days ago. A retired school nurse, she was also a great help in her dad's personal care and making sure he understood the new diagnosis that would now rule his life in so many ways. Before leaving the room, Charity turned and said to Priscilla, "We always have coffee pot on in the lounge if you need a break. It's down the hall, across from the nurses' station." She enjoyed taking care of fellow nurses or their family members and thought to offer this professional courtesy. "There might be some cake as well," she murmured, not wanting her patient to hear. Priscilla looked over Charity's head at her father, then back at Charity. "Coffee would be great," she said. Then she whispered, "Cake too." An hour later, Charity had completed her rounds and took a coffee break in the employee lounge. After a moment, the door opened gently, and Charity turned to see Priscilla standing there, her build curvy in leggings and a classic rock t-shirt. She carried a foil-covered plate. "Is it okay if I come in?" she said. "Sure," Charity said, standing. "Do you want coffee?" "Real brewed coffee? Sure." Priscilla sat at the table. Charity chuckled and poured a cup for her. She set it on the table with a handful of sugar packets and creamers. She then cut a slice of cake and placed it before her. Priscilla thanked Charity and took a sip of coffee. "This is good, much better than the cafeteria coffee." She reached for the foil-covered plate and handed it to Charity. "Take these, please. You can share them with the other nurses." Charity removed the foil and saw it was a plate of brownies. Priscilla grimaced. "My sister has a good heart, and her homemade brownies are amazing. She brought them when she visited today, but of course my father shouldn't eat them." "Absolutely," Charity said, "but we certainly will. Thank you so much." As Priscilla ate cake, she and Charity began relaying various anecdotes of their working worlds to each other, experiences only other nurses would understand. After a half hour, Charity said, "I really must get back to work. I have 2 patients for surgery this morning and still have a lot to do to get them ready." Priscilla stood up. "I'd better go too and check on Dad." "I'll be in his room early this morning to check his blood sugar again," Charity said as Priscilla left the room. About to leave the lounge herself, Charity turned and beheld the plate of brownies. Since her coffee break had turned into something longer, she might not have a chance to eat any of them later, and she didn't want to miss out. Quickly, she snatched a few pieces and snuck them into her lunch bag. She and Jeff could have them for dessert after dinner that night. Dinner, the same conundrum. Charity kept thinking about it while completing her work into the early morning, getting the surgery patients ready for their operations, and rechecking Mr. Blair's blood sugar. She gave report to an oncoming nurse and walked out with her friend Miranda at 7:30. "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" Charity asked her friend. "Pizza. Friday night is always pizza night, so I don't have to think about it. We have 2 frozen pizzas from Value Foods. The girls like pepperoni, and Mitch and I share a 3-meat. "Good idea," Charity said. "I'll have Jeff stop at Chef Mario's after work and pick some up." After her nap that morning, Charity texted Jeff and asked him to pick up pizza. He responded with his usual, "Will do." Charity served iced tea with the sausage and green pepper pizza that night. While cleaning up, she remembered the brownies in her lunch bag. "I have something special for dessert tonight," she said, reaching for her lunch bag on the kitchen table. "They were given to me by someone at work." She placed the brownies on a plate, poured cold milk for her and Jeff, and set it all on the table. Jeff lifted a brownie and peered at it. "These look good. Walnuts, too." He took a bite and let out an appreciative, "Mmm." Charity smiled and sat down across from him. She bit into her brownie and let out a cry of surprise. "There's something hard in this one." "A walnut," Jeff said, "or maybe a shell." "No, harder." Charity broke up her brownie and detected something shiny within. She worked it free. "An earring! Ugh!" She held up the small gold hoop earring. "An earring?" Jeff said. He rapidly began breaking up his brownie with a fork. Were there any surprises in his? Charity looked at his plate. "Did you get anything?" "Just walnuts. I wonder how that got in there." Charity wondered too. Obviously, it was dropped in the batter by mistake. Charity rinsed the earring in the sink and peered at it. The stones looked like real diamonds, but she wasn't sure. She didn't know if it was real or fake, but wanted to return it to Priscilla anyway. Charity was tired and wanted to go to bed early since she was off work that night, but she waited till 11 o'clock and phoned the 4 South floor. Getting Miranda on the phone, she said, "I need you to get a phone number for me." She explained about the brownies and the earring and needing Priscilla's number. Miranda said Priscilla's father, Thomas Blair, had been discharged during the day, but she would call medical records later that night to get the information Charity needed. Miranda ended with, "Only you, Charity," her voice merry as she hung up the phone. The next morning, Charity checked her phone when she woke up and noted the text from Miranda giving her the contact information for Priscilla and her father's addresses. Looks like Mr. Blair lived in nearby Canal Fulton. Priscilla, however, lived in Cleveland, a 2-hour drive from Charity's small town of Quarry Run. Charity called Priscilla about finding the earring in the brownies. "My sister wondered where that was," Priscilla exclaimed. "She realized one earring was missing but couldn't find it anywhere." It was decided since Priscilla lived 2 hours away, Charity would mail the item to her in a padded envelope, and then she would return it to her sister, who lived in her neighborhood. A week later, Charity received a card-shaped envelope in the mail. She sat on the couch in the family room to open it, and found a thank you note and a gift card for $50 to a nearby restaurant. The thank you card said, "I am so grateful to get my earring back. They were a gift from my husband on our 10th anniversary and cost a lot of money." The earring appeared to have no ill effects from being baked in the brownies. "So sorry you had to go through that ordeal, but I am happy to have it back. I hope this gift card makes up for your inconvenience." "What's that?" Jeff said, entering the room and getting comfortable in his recliner. He leaned back and opened the newspaper. Charity picked up the gift card from the coffee table. "It's a gift card for the spicy jalapeno, and a thank you card from the owner of the earring. Seems it was real diamonds after all." "How much is the gift card for?" $50. Would have made more sense to keep the earring and pawn it. But not honest, right? Charity said. She thought for a moment and smiled. Besides, I actually made $50 from a $1 find. In response to Jeff's quizzical expression, Charity relayed the entire story, from finding the dollar bill under her car's tire, donating it to the Salvation Army in return for a candy cane, and giving the candy cane to little Azalea. The $10 reward from the grocery store for doing something decent was used to purchase a bouquet of flowers for Laura, which resulted in Laura getting the birthday cake. Having cake at work gave Charity the idea of inviting Priscilla to have a piece, which gave Priscilla the opportunity to unload the brownies that would be detrimental to her father's health on the nurses of the unit. And, Charity continued, when I bit into my brownie, I found the earring, which I returned and earned myself a $50 reward to spend at a restaurant. Right, so I don't have to worry about dinner tonight. Let's go! I hope you enjoyed the $1 investment. Please return to my YouTube channel often for more audio stories, and visit storiesthatinspire.com to find a selection of novels available in ebook or paperback versions.